In the car, he starts debating, oh, was it really that big of a deal for me to open your door and this and that? And I'm like, was it really that big of a deal not to open it? And he's like, I don't know. If you ask me, it feels like a lot of effort. So I open my door to try and get out. He's like, okay, I'll pull over. If you're going to even debate that opening the door is just like a little too much. Oh, you had me wrong.
Okay guys, so welcome again to Almost Adulting, previously known as Too Tired to Be Crazy, with me, your host, your bestie, and your big sister, Violet Benson. So today I have Bella Thorne. Welcome.
Hey.
I'm so excited to have her on because basically she is helping close the month of mental health, and I just thought, who better to close this month and to start June with than Bella Thorne.
Oh, thank you. Fuck yeah.
You've been around for so many years. I mean, you've been on Disney, you've been around since 9, I think 8 or 9 is when you started, right?
Yes, before Disney, yes.
Yeah, before Disney. So what would you say, what's something weird about you that most people don't know?
I can eat however many jalapenos you dare me to. I just eat them all. I love spicy food, like a lot. Sometimes I worry between all the acidic food that I eat with the spicy food that I'm gonna get an ulcer, and that just like really worries me. Yeah, this is what I think about late at night when I'm eating my jalapeno cheeseburger.
The weirdest thing about me, I would say one of them, there's a lot. I constantly imagine scenarios in real life of where if there was a crime, how would I handle it? Or if someone's about to attack me, like how would I attack them?
I think about that.
Do you do that too?
The attack,
Okay.
yes. And like, you know, when you're looking at like apartment spaces or houses and stuff, and you're like, yo, if I had to like jump out this shit and somebody was about to come up in here, like how would I get out? What's the fastest way?
Yes.
Like, you know,
Okay, we're the same.
I didn't know that was a weird thing.
What is something that a lot of people always assume about you?
I think people probably assume that I'm like crazy, but I just feel like I'm not that crazy. Like, you know, I feel like people just have this misconception of like, oh, Bella Thorne, like, you know, she out there. And I'm like, am I out there? Out where?
Yeah.
In the wilderness? In the cities? Where am I? I would love to know how far I am out there, because I just, you know, I don't know. I just feel like it's pretty normal.
Yeah. I agree. I think you're pretty normal.
Right?
Yeah.
You know me. So.
Yeah. So what's the weirdest thing a fan ever asked you?
I don't know, but I feel like I've been asked some pretty odd things. Definitely like signing a lot of like, you know, body parts. I feel like that's always a little like, oh, your boobies are out. Okay. It's just a little, nice to meet you. And boobies. Whoa. But, you know, it's always awesome. Those people that do ask her that are always awesome. Like, they're just cool people that are just like, oh man, can you like sign this? And you're like, sure. And they're just like, fuck yeah. And that's dope. Yeah. I love meeting those people.
I feel like the weirdest thing I've ever been asked, sometimes I get asked to have threesomes with like
I've
couples.
been asked that so many times.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. Sometimes I've considered it. There was one time. There was. Yeah.
Let's go back really quick. Obviously, we're going to dive into mental health and all that. I know you're really passionate about it right now, but starting off, you know, you've been acting since you were a child. How did you get into acting so young? Do you resent getting into acting so young?
No, I always wanted to be an actress when I was younger, and I started modeling since I was 6 weeks old. That is not a joke.
Oh, right. You were such a beautiful child. I remember. I saw some pictures.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I was actually a really ugly baby, supposedly, that I was just like really gangly looking. And I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. So I was blue and like discolored for a while. And then I had supposedly like long nails and long toenails, which makes sense. My nails grow pretty long. So.
Well, they actually say, like, I feel like whenever babies are super ugly are the ones that ends up being really good looking when they're older. It's like a thing.
Thank you.
I would know. I was really ugly.
Really?
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, that's right. So, and now look at me.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Mada. I started modeling when I was young, and I always wanted to be an actor, but then I'm dyslexic, and so I was also bullied, and then everyone was just like, that will never happen for you because acting is reading. Then my brother started acting, and he booked what we thought was a commercial, but it wasn't a commercial. It was a series for a show called Four Kings. And then he was actually the one that was like, when I was 8, he was like, what does it matter if you try and fail? Like, who's really gonna know? Like, the people in Florida, they're gonna know if you like couldn't do it. Like, come on. And he was actually the one that pushed me to actually start acting. Aww. And so, yeah, very thankful for that.
I love stories like this because a lot of people don't realize how much you have to hear no's and how many times you have to fail before that one thing hits. And like even a story like this, where if you would have listened to other people, what they said, you would have never been where you are.
Never been here, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that has worked its way into everything in my life. I wasn't a dancer when I got Shake It Up. I had 2 left feet, and learning how to dance for that show and doing that, like everyone's like, you're not gonna be able to do this. Did it. Acting, dyslexia, boom. Like, especially with writing as well. Like, I've been into so much writing, and that's another thing with dyslexia that I shouldn't be able to do and succeed in. And, it just always, that mentality throughout my life, I've always pushed that and tried to strive for it. And I feel like the older I get, the more scared you get. It's like realizing you can like break a bone when you're climbing a fence or some shit. And you're like, the older you get, you're like, should we climb this fence, guys? I don't know. That kind of shit. And I feel like it's good to keep with that very young mentality of pushing yourself of, I can really do this, even if it's scary.
Yeah. And plus, like, I'm dyslexic as well, so I can definitely relate. Okay. And I've talked about it before on my podcast when I created a blog before I created Daddy Issues. And when I created a blog, some girl was like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. She's a terrible writer. What is she doing? And I deleted that blog that week. Aww. And then years later, I created Daddy Issues for my own.
That bitch didn't know what she was talking about.
I know. But then years later, I created Daddy Issues, and it was the same thing. The girl was like, what is that girl doing? And at this time, I didn't care, and I continued Daddy Issues, and it became a success, obviously. So I think a lot of times people look at their trades like it's something bad, but really it makes you more unique. Like, dyslexic means you're more creative, and you have like other outlets to express yourself.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Aw. Yo, fuck that bitch.
In the end of the day, when people say things like, what is that person doing, blah, blah, it's because they're too scared to follow their dreams. They're too scared to do something. That's really where it's coming from. They're fearful, and they can't imagine someone else actually pursuing and doing what they want to do. That's really where it comes from.
And I think that is a normal thing, though. It's like, this is technically a negative quality, but we all do it. And some people do it to such a negative extent like that, where they are really like so hateful of other people in their dreams and their outlooks and that kind of stuff. But I feel like, when I look at that stuff and I'm like, I would never do that to someone though. But then, you have to study deeper into your own habits. And like any time that you do say something that's like a little bit negative, or, when I was younger and I was much more insecure, like looking at people on Instagram and being like, oh, I don't look like this or like that or that kind of stuff. And, I just had to cut all of that stuff out of my life because it was like making me like jealous and like feeling like inner hateful. And I was like, I don't want to speak these thoughts because no one deserves these thoughts, and they're negative, and like tearing down someone else to make you feel better is like this like heat of the moment thing that we do as like a snap, just to like, I don't know, like stab as soon as we're stabbed, we're like stab back. And that just, it's unhealthy. And I think that we do it so much in ways that we don't even realize. And just to now have that thought and trying to apply that to your life going forward, of like noticing little things that you do and being like, I don't want to be that person. And it's doesn't make me feel good. It's not healthy for my growth.
What do you do on days that you do feel bad? If you're feeling not so good about yourself, like how do you stop yourself from going down that path, especially on social media?
Oh, well, first of all, stay off of Instagram.
Forever?
No, sorry. When you're feeling these, you're feeling a little anxious, or you're feeling a little hateful in the inside, or you're starting to pick at your face, or, your body, or your whatever it is that you are, going on about. As soon as you start to notice those things, then it's like those feelings are normal. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to wipe them away and be a fucking, clean baby. Like it is what it is. But I think that once you start to feel that, noticing the triggers around you that makes that worse, like Instagram. Like if I'm starting to feel negative, or just like starting to feel a little cunty or sad, like depressed, sad, Instagram, terrible place to be. If you're in that place, just don't even open it. Don't do it. It's just not good. I think that playing mental games to get you out of that space, like I know it sounds a little dumb, but it does work. Like board games and different mental games that you can play, that you can go online and research different things that would like intrigue you, because what you have to do is you have to work your brain in a different way to get out of that mental space. My therapist taught me this thing where when I was like, the worst part is like not one negative thought, not two, not three, when it starts to become not beneficial, right? Because there's constructive criticism. Okay, one thing. And then there is just hateful on yourself. And that is just oof. So as soon as the thoughts start to become not helpful in the way that there's nothing you can do to change these things that you're thinking about, really, get out of that place, because that's just this spiral that just starts going down and down and down. And one thing that helps, that my therapist taught me, is she says that it really also helps with lighter objects like neons and light color things, but I think it helps with any object. I've noticed you pick something up and you put it down, you pick it up again.
Oh my God, I read about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that helps trick the brain, it just interrupts that thought pattern, just so that the brain is like, oh, now my body's doing something. Okay, now it's doing it again. And then, okay, clean new thoughts. You can't just go back to the old thoughts, or else you're going to have to do this again. But it does break the spiral.
I read about it so long ago. It's something, I forgot the name for it, but it's something about you suddenly being in the present. So you escape your thoughts and you're kind of like, I'm here right now. And that's by being able to touch objects.
Because my body has to do something,
Yes. I think, I like that. And you've been pretty open about it also, like you don't like to use filters, and like you don't like to use Photoshop, and you also like posting your worst pictures on Instagram to make other people feel normal. So
Right. Yeah, I think that there is this beauty in, so funny. Okay, for instance, like my trainer, Sarah, she's like telling her about this audition I have to do, and something's hard and whatever it is. And then she's like, oh, you're going to do it. Then she sees me the next day and she's like, oh, hey, did it go well? I'm like, oh, bro, it was terrible. Like, I feel bad. Like, I just don't know. Like, this character is just not me. Like, and I'm forcing it. It's just, I can't pull from anything in my life to make this feel real for me in this instance of this role. And she looked and she was just like, what? And I was like, yeah. So I don't think I'm going to do the audition instead. And she's like, oh, but everything seems so perfect. Like, you were gonna do it and you were talking about it. And I was like, yeah. And she looked at me and she was like, wow. And you just always have it together, and everything is always so amazing from your life of like what I see and what she, knows about my public appearance. And I'm just like, yeah, that shit is good to know. Like, you may think that people like have it together or have this life that you can't possibly have because somehow they have it and you don't. No, it's not like that. And it's not as pretty as you would like to think it is. Although at times it's beautiful.
Of course. But what do you have to say for people that on the outside look at you and think like, oh, she must have such an easy life? Obviously, you've gotten criticism like that in the past, where it's like, well, if someone like you says, well, I have anxiety or I'm having a bad day, it's like, okay, but you're famous and rich. Like, how can you have a bad day? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure how I feel about that. There's one part that I'm a Libra, so I always have to argue both options, or even argue something that I completely don't agree with just because someone's not arguing the point or debating the point, just because, points have to be heard. So Libra scales. Anyways, side note of my thought process. I think that as far as the obvious ones, like, yeah, life can sometimes be a little shitty and things happen in life that suck. happens to all of us, things in life that change you forever, personal tragedies, things that are PTSD nightmares. Like, I'm talking real things that you can look at anyone and think that they have a great life or they have a bad life or this or that. And really the idea is like, they probably have both of those things. You know, life is both of the things. You can't have the bad without the good. And so there's always going to be both. So it depends on what your view is, how you look at things. Like, if you have a bad day, are you going to think that you're, always in a bad place? Like, are you going to look at the darker side of things? Or are you going to try to look at the lighter side of things and been like, actually, I had 2 good days this week and that felt pretty good. I was in a rut. It just depends on how you look at it. And so if people go, well, you must not have a bad day because you have money and you're famous, it's like, well, I mean, I guess you could say that having money makes my life easier. Is that what you're saying? That life is perfect because you have money? Like, I'm just trying to understand what behind that mentality.
Well, Jim Carrey did say, I hope everybody could get rich and famous and will have everything they ever dreamed of, so they will know that it's not the answer. And I love that. And I agree with that. I think it's so much easier to look at people who have something you don't have and think like, oh, well, their life must be perfect. But you've actually gone through a lot of trauma growing up. I mean, you lost your father at a young age. You've talked about sexual assault and things like that. I mean, no money in the world will be enough for somebody to want to go through something like that.
It's like, so, that's such a, when people think that, I just don't,
You lost your father to a motorcycle accident, which is even, I actually had a friend, I think, in high school that happened. I mean, that's already in itself, but do you think that was something you were even able to process as a child, or did that make you, or were you not able to process that make you want to dive into work even more? Like, or how did you deal with that so young?
I definitely didn't process it. I remember I didn't cry for a long time, and I felt guilty for not crying. Like, I knew I was sad, but then it hit, and I feel like maybe 2 months later, 3 months, like I was in shock for like 3 months. Like, I remember that everyone was always crying, and that I felt so like odd as a child and confused, and then it all hit. And so I think yes, initially confusion and shock, not being able to really process what's happening. We are moving to LA to pursue acting, and Daddy's living in Florida, and he's coming back up here, and he was literally he was 2 days away from getting on his plane to come move up here and with his business and blah blah blah. And then I remember when that phone call happened, we were all supposed to go to the beach that day. And I remember opening up my door to my mom's screeches. And I remember her standing, and she's on the phone, and she's just like screeching as her body is like looking like something is like pulling her down, and her body keeps trying to stand up. It's so interesting to witness that kind of trauma and pain in real life and not in movies. Was very interesting to see. And then it was just like, Daddy's dead, he's gone. And we didn't have enough money to fly down there to go to his cremation or say goodbye. So my mom went down and then brought some photos back of him so that we could see him, which I know is supposed to be a good thing. And then after that, I think that just the whole world just changed in that way, and it just became really hard on my mom. And
do you feel like that made you kind of have to grow up fast, aside from also being a child actor, that made you kind of grow up fast?
All of the circumstances of my life, I think, made me grow up fast. Every single one of them. Yeah. All of it is just a trifecta of just like,
do you think till this day you're still not grieving your father, or
you'll always be
processing
grieving.
It? Yeah.
I think that when you have death in that way, it's just always there. And I wrote this part in my book that death is like this crane that's just got all these rocks and it's just laying on top of you, and these rocks are just covering you, and this crane is just like slowly picking up this rock, and it's just so slow, and time is the crane.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, as time, things feel a little not as suffocating in sadness, but then there's moments that trigger you, like so random, like I'll be having a cup of coffee or some shit and I'm like, I'll never have a cup of coffee with my father. So yeah.
Do you have any advice for anyone that's currently going through the loss of a loved one, of how they can cope with something like that?
You know, at first you want to get pain out, right? You want to cry and you want to play the songs that make you feel like you're being heard at that moment, or the movies that make you feel that way, or, you know, invite these kind of sad things into your life, and then, you know, do that, cry it out. There'll never be enough tears to really fill that space, but then stop with those triggers. And, you know, there's something about sadness that sucks you in so much, and the more you lay in that bed, like the deeper you get. Sometimes you just have to remind yourself, like, I have to pull myself out of this, even if it's for 2 hours, to feel better. I have to. There's a point where it's too much, and then things become dark down there. Not a good place to be.
I agree. I think a lot of times people have a hard time not being sad because they feel guilty, because they feel like guilty that they're not mourning any longer. And a lot of times people get scared because when you're crying every day, when you're sad about the loss of something, you're still holding on to it. And the minute you stop doing that, people sometimes are afraid that they'll forget then.
Right.
And that's the only thing, but they don't realize that you'll always have those memories, and whoever is gone now, they want you to be happy. They want you to move on.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the most like interesting, sick, cruel, funny part about life is they're like, you know, when they die, they want you to be happy after that. And that's just realist. Like, that's just being real. Like, they don't want you to spend the rest of your life mourning them and in sadness and not moving on. And they really do want the best for you. And that's what's so fucked, because you're just like, well, now you're gone and now you want the best for me? Bitch, when you were here, we had problems. Now we can't work that shit out because you're gone, and I'm stuck with them in my guilt of our not working out our issues before passing. I feel like that's like one of the biggest things, like especially with family, and what death really reminds you of all the time is that, wow, I have these people and they're alive and they're around me and they care about me, or this or that, or family. And, you know, when you have fucked up relationships with your family, which I feel like is most people.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, you know, you get to a point of like, I have to put aside some of the hatred or the pain or this and that because I want to be good with you. And, you know, when you lose people, you're like, damn, I really want to call people and let them know that they are important to me. You know, we just never make good with people and really make them feel as appreciated as we feel about them in our hearts.
Yeah.
And then they die, and then you're like, fuck, I should have done that. Why didn't I, you know?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I've talked about it before. I didn't have a good relationship with my father growing up. And as I got older, it was kind of something in me that was like, you know, my dad could be gone tomorrow, and I want him to know that I love him. Like, I want to work on the relationship because I don't know how many more years he has left. So it was important for me to kind of change the dynamic.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, for me, we're
good
close.
For you, Violet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For me, we're close. For other people, it's probably not the same. And we talk on WhatsApp like once a week. And I'm like, we're so close. Like, he'll email me a meme sometimes. And then I take like a day to respond. But to me, that's like a really close relationship. You lost your father when you were 9. Obviously, you're still dealing with that. But you've been open about this in the past as well. That's not the only traumatic thing. You talked before about, I don't know why I get so awkward speaking about this.
Saying
being molested as a child. But it's not that. I just think it's so cool that you've talked about it before, because it is such a uneasy subject. But the reason I think it's so great, because there's a lot of people out there maybe some even people in this room, that for them to speak about something like that, it revolves around shame or uncomfortableness or guilt. So to see someone else being able to even speak about something like that, I think is a really big deal. You've talked about before in the past how society makes victims feel like villains. What did you mean by that?
Oh, exactly what it says. Exactly what it says. Our system has a really interesting way of making victims feel like villains, changing the tables, not hearing the right side. It's not just our system in that way, it's all of our systems. They all do not really do the best for helping people in that situation. They just don't put all of those feet forward that they should. They don't, and they make it very difficult, and it's very hush hush, and the more you say, the more we're gonna jump down your throat. And that is always such a, like, if somebody tells you a fucked up story, you're not gonna keep going so hard at them, asking them, jumping down their throat, because at some point you're going to start to feel like you're like really prying, and it's already hard enough to talk about your trauma, and now you're like, you keep going deeper. That kind of stuff too just like doesn't help people talk about any type of trauma. Sometimes with people that want to talk about their difficulties in life that they've experienced, some people will jump down their throat about it. And that's not good, because then that makes them more uncomfortable about sharing their traumas.
I remember there was an interview with Bill Maher. Is that how I pronounce his name? Cool, I did it right. And you were trying to be open about your battle with anxiety and depression over the years, and he kind of minimized it. And do you feel like people like him are one of the reasons that sometimes people end up shutting down or not wanting to share their experiences?
I feel like people like him is a very like fighting words term that kind of puts him in a bracket that I'm not sure that he necessarily belongs in. I think he was, conversation is a debate. Sometimes you push a little too far, but I think that, I don't know, like people like him, I'm like, who are those people like him? I'm not sure what bracket that falls under, but as far as the minimizing comment, I don't know. At some point it felt like, oh, he understood trauma, and then at some point it felt like, maybe he's just debating, and sometimes that's what, that's very much how he is with his conversations. So, maybe he was just trying to debate the other side, or
you are
maybe
such
he
a
thinks
Libra.
I don't.
This is the most Libra thing, to be so politically correct. I didn't even realize I said people like him, and you're just like, he literally was making you saying you shouldn't have trauma, and you're like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and defend him. I love that. What I meant is, you're right, not people like him. It's kind of when someone pries, or when you're trying to share an experience and someone shuts it down, it makes a lot of people who are either sexual victims or all of that, they end up shutting down, not wanting to share their experiences because somebody minimized it.
Right. Yeah. Minimizing, and I think in situations is bad. I think we do it in general all the time, every day, without even realizing it. Like when our friends like, yo, oh my God, this thing happened, that's fucked up. And you're like, that's fucked up. But look at the bright side. Okay, never say look at the bright side to someone who's going through it right now. Bitch, throw your bright side in the fucking trash, okay? And then burn it on fire, okay? And then bury it, I don't know. Get it out of here. It doesn't help people in their trauma or their feelings. Like, I think that, and actually it's been a while in our relationship to learn this, and I had to really tell him, like, baby, when you're, if I'm like crying and I'm like going through it and you're like bright side type shit with me, like, that is not the way to handle me specifically. I need you to be like, that is fucked up. Oh my God, fuck those hoes. Oh no. Like, I need you to be like more mad than me so that I can be like, okay, it's okay. Actually, you know what? it's bad, I know, but it'll be okay. Like, I need to be not the one on the highest level. Like,
But that's what's crazy. Everyone processes things differently, and actually research shows that that's the difference between a lot of times women and men, is that men look for solutions. So it's more like, or for example, I'm actually pretty similar to how he acts, where my sister one time called me with a complaint, and she was upset over some girl who wasn't being nice or whatever it was. As she's talking about it, my brain, I'm like, I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna DM this girl and be like, you're being really rude to my sister. It's not cool. Because I've always been the one to defend my sister and like protect her, even though she's older. I've always been like the crazy one. And then as she's talking, I say, hey, Karen, don't worry about it. I fixed it. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I go, I DM'd her. And I said, it's not cool what you're doing. And she's like, what? Why would you do that? I was just calling you to vent. I just needed you to be like, yeah, that's so crazy. She's such an asshole. Oh my God, unsend it right now. I can't. And I was like, wait, I'm so confused. Why else would you call me about this? I thought I was doing a good thing right now. Yeah, because it's like you're complaining to me. Then I'm like, let me fix it. All she wanted to do was vent. But that's the crazy thing. It's like communication is so different with everyone. Like, I would think of the same thing. I would either tell you to look at the bright side, or I'd be like, okay, let's fix this. Yeah. Versus you just want me to sit with you and be like, you don't want
solutions. Sucks. Or you're like, let's be mad for like an hour and then give me some solutions. Like, still need the solutions, but like, let me be mad about this.
What's the sign, Ben?
Gemini.
Oh, that's really compatible. Geminis. Libra and Gemini. Okay, cool. Okay.
You're like, signed off. Click.
Moving back really quick to the other thing that I did want to discuss. Research shows that a lot of actors in general have at one point in their life
issues.
Well, obviously all of them have issues. That's why they need so much attention. But like entertainers in general. But it does show, research shows that a lot of actors or entertainers in general have been molested as children. It's like, for whatever reason. Yes. Like right now, there are two in this room who have maybe gone through that. So I think that's why I've been walking around this issue. Because like for me, it's I've never talked about something like that. But that's why I'm so excited. Not excited, but it's nice.
Not excited. We're not excited.
Someone that can talk about it. Do you mind sharing kind of what you've shared in the past about that? Going through that as a child?
It's so funny the way you're asking these things. Boy, has it affected me. In so many ways. Jesus, I feel like every fucking way that, I'm sure some type of psychologist or whatever the fuck could come in here and be like, oh yeah, it's this way and this way and this way and this way, and name us a little list here. But yeah, I think that one of the hardest things is like getting into the bedroom with someone can always be a little tricky after having these experiences for like the rest of your life. It could be a little tricky and not always a great experience, even if you are sleeping with someone that you are so into and you really want to be into it in that moment and you're in love with them or whatever the fuck, and it can creep up on you in those scenarios. And, there's definitely been times where I have been in the bedroom with a partner and have had to stop due to tears or traumatic flashback or whatever the fuck. Sometimes like there's one time in the shower, and I don't know why in the shower, but it just was not good. And I got so, I don't know. I just like afterwards, like could not stop, like a really like a hyperventilating cry, like a hard in the chest. I remember my voice was so sore after. I don't know why it just hit me so hard in that moment. And yeah, that's never that fun. So there's that.
So how would someone else has gone through something like that? How would they be able to approach that with a partner? Like, is that something you bring up with every partner you've had? Be like, hey, by the way, this happened to me? Or do you just kind of not say anything until you have one of those moments?
I definitely say something much way beforehand. Oh yeah. I think I bring up this kind of stuff like, I don't even know, like second, third date. Because like if you cannot deal with emotional trauma, then that's okay. You're just not the person for me. I've got a lot of baggage, and sometimes I need extra arms. You know what I mean? There's no point in me wasting my time with someone if they can't emotionally go there into the dark place and understand that kind of stuff. So I bring it up really early on, because God forbid you start to like really like someone and then you're like BT dubs and they're all like, oh,
yeah,
that's terrible. And then they don't want to make you feel uncomfortable because now they're worried, like, oh my God, is she going to feel like, or is he going to feel like I'm getting on that? Like, you know, there are things that, you know, are triggers and whatnot. And so people then, I feel like, worry after you've brought it up. Like, you know, it's, yeah. So I think have the conversation. If someone is not willing to or receptive of your feelings, then, you know, just fuck them right out the door, in the way of not fucking them at all. Just whoop, because they're not worth the time or your mental space. No, you need someone who can comfort you and make you feel good, so that when you are having sex, you can not have those triggers as often, because someone, it feels protective. It feels like a good nature. It feel, you know, that will happen, I think, less, those triggers with someone that you have that connection with.
So for people who are, maybe they even blocked out those type of traumas. And for example, for me, I went through something in my childhood. It's fine. I like blocked it out. Like I didn't even know it ever happened. And then years later, something triggered it. And then suddenly it's like my memory started to go back. And I was just like, whoa. And I remember for me personally, I had so many questions, and that was like years later. So I didn't know kind of how to approach it. But I also remember that I started to feel really grossed out about myself, because it made me realize certain things that I liked sexually had to do with that, which is, and because
that's a nasty conversation.
Exactly. But it's because no one talks about it. You don't even know, because you just end up being grossed out with yourself.
Yeah,
and
you're guilty. And why would I like this? Yeah. Oof. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
1, I'm sorry. 2, it's terrible. 3, the world is clearly a piece of shit place all the time. And 4, I'm sorry about those other thoughts too. Like I hate being there, because like, you know, you don't know how to feel about it. You're like, I want to feel the right way. So tell me the right way to feel about this, because, you know, it's like, these feelings are inside of me. Like, they are, is what I like. Like there are you know, and you're just like, I don't want to feel guilty or disgusting.
Because you're like, wait, I always like this. The way I liked having sex for all this time, or the way I watched the specific porn that I watch.
Right.
Then that's what's so...
The search bar porn. Oh,
exactly.
No,
and then you're like, this is why I searched for this. It took me so long, and I was like disgusted with myself, until finally I had a conversation with other people just about the porn they like. And then I find out other people were watching that type of porn too. Because I thought I was like disgusting. And that's what sucks, because you don't talk about these things. They're uncomfortable. You don't know how to share those type of things. So for anyone out there that has gone through childhood trauma and now they're trying to live past it, what advice do you have for them about coping with it and moving forward? Is it like therapy? Is it talking to someone?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely a lot of mental ways that, like, things that you can get your, you know, hands on. There's, you know, hotlines and, you know, talking to people and therapy and these different things. But, you know, sometimes I think that a lot of people just don't want to do any of those things. Like, they just want to figure it out in themselves, and they don't want to, like, talk about these things and share these things with other people, even if they aren't being judged at all, and have a safe place to talk. Still, it's quite uncomfortable. So the more you talk, definitely the better it is. When I started telling people in my life about my trauma, and, you know, first it started with really, really, really close people, and then the more I talked about it, the better I felt, and the more I understood how I felt about it. That's one of the great things about speech, is that when you in your mind, it's like, it's so funny. You have these thoughts, but they're also hard to read in there. And when you speak them, a lot of times you actually understand how you actually feel about something when you say it. And that has been really helpful. And then that opened it up to, oh, wow, I really should talk about this more. And the more people that I actually meet, holy fuck, this happens to a lot of people. And it felt like I was entering this kind of safe community of people that just understood what it felt like. And that was a big thing of not feeling so alone, not feeling like this is the pain that I have and I hold and it's only mine. And it's like, it's okay. It's also other people's. And that, I don't know that that helps, but for some reason for me, it feels like it's okay. I have this too, or this thing or that thing. And it just, I don't know, it feels good to feel not so alone.
Yeah, no, I agree. Exactly. Once you talk about it, then it doesn't feel like your dirty little secret.
Yeah.
Whether it's depression, whether it's sexual assault, child molestation, other traumas. Yeah, I agree.
But yes, I think it's important to remind yourself this moment is one moment in my life. I am bigger than this moment. I am more than this moment. I will continue to be more than this moment. This moment does not define me. And it, again, is just one moment along all the other moments that will happen in my life. Just hammer that into your brain as much as you can when you feel your weakest. Recite that to yourself. Because one of the things that I feel like would make you even more mad after having something really traumatic happen is like letting them win. God, giving it more power in mental space in your brain. That's like makes me more mad at myself when I'm like, damn, and you still have this fucking hold of me and I want to get out of this hold and I want to get out of your grasp. And the thing that I can do that would feel the strongest or the most rewarding to myself would be to get out of this grasp.
Yeah.
Part of the issue around mental health is we're all like, here are these things, do them and be better, you will be. And it's like, look, everything is easier said than fucking done. The shit is still hard. You know, you can say it all day, but that you can say it all day and yet not believe it. But at some point you will believe it. You just have to keep saying it. You have to convince yourself. Like that is so important.
Okay, so really quick, since we should be wrapping up. Obviously, now you have a partner. You guys are engaged. Mm-hmm. Do you think before you find that partner that you can love, do you believe that you have to first love yourself, or do you think you can just figure that out as you're falling in love with someone else?
You can figure it out. Don't worry about it, kid. You'll be fine. No, obviously, yeah. Like the ideal situation is to love yourself, but the problem is that you're like, well, if I have to love myself before I love anybody else, that could take the whole rest of your life until the day you die. You don't know if you'll ever fully love yourself. Like that's such a hard idea to grasp for the brain. How can you love yourself to the fullest extent of everything you have? That's just like not, I feel like that's one of those toxic positivity things when it's like, you know, love yourself to the fullest. And you're like, yeah, I can love myself and I need to work on loving myself constantly. And I'll keep working on that every fucking day.
Well, I think it's if you change the definition of loving yourself is also being realistic and understanding that not every day you're going to love yourself.
You have to choose to love yourself in that way. Yeah.
Exactly. There's one thing when you completely don't love yourself, so then you end up, because we're mirrors. We attract who we are at that moment. So if I'm feeling shitty about myself and I'm insecure or I'm emotionally unavailable and whatever else, I will most likely attract those type of partners. So it's kind of the same thing. If I'm not at my best, I will most likely attract people not their best, because if I don't love myself, it's going to be hard for me to date someone who loves me, because I'm going to be like, I don't love myself. How can you love me? And as much as people think they're not doing it, they do it when they're constantly running away or when they're self-sabotaging and things like that. This is just from psychology books that I've been reading, not from my own personal experience, because I don't date anymore. But
anymore, she said.
Yeah. What would you say? What's one non-negotiable thing that you have when it comes to dating?
Garlic. Like if garlic is not in the situation, I'm not in the situation.
Like if they're like, what if they're like allergic to garlic?
I'm not in this situation. I'm sorry. You could be the love of my life. Bye. like there'll be another one. I don't know what to tell you about that, bro.
Garlic is your non-negotiable.
It's a non-negotiable.
I was not expecting that from all things like garlic.
I remember I was like 17, 16, yeah, on this date, and we were at the counter. You know, the burger place, delicious, by the way, love it. And they have those garlic truffle fries, and I ordered them when the server asked, and he goes, "She's kidding." No, I'm not. I will take the garlic truffle fries. And then he again like laughs. And then he looks at me and he sees just how serious I am and that I'm actually very close to being offended. And he's like, "Oh yeah, the garlic. Yeah,
but for you, you're like, it's over.
Yeah, I was just like, I am eating this, and if you like still want to kiss me, then that's cool. If you don't want to kiss me, goodbye, because I will find someone who will trust. So yeah, that's just not happening. And I think if your partner likes garlic, like just eat some garlic. Then you don't smell like you know.
Yeah.
Once you eat the same thing as somebody else, you're just like, all right.
What's the worst date you've ever been on? Do you have like a memory
the
of
worst
like,
date?
Yeah, the worst date you've ever been on.
Oh, I do. I remember, I don't know that it's the word. I'm sure I've heard worst dates, but this definitely comes to mind. So this guy's picking me up, and I walk out my front gate to go in his car, and I go by the passenger side, and I'm waiting there. And he is in the car, yeah. And he is looking at me through the window, so I'm just staring at him through the passenger window. And I'm like, and he's like, well, oh, come on. And I'm literally like, yeah. And then I'm standing there for so long. And now the fact that he is like about to actually debate whether to do it or not is now making me like, now I'm really not getting in the car. Like, you know, I'm really not going to get in until you physically open this door for me. Cause that's just like, what are you even doing? And then, you know, he comes, he's like, okay, you open the door. Come, I get in the car. And so I'm already like, red flag number one, bad no. And then, bad review. And then in the car, he starts debating the situation again about, oh, was it really that big of a deal for me to open your door and this and that? And I'm like, was it really that big of a deal not to open it? And he's like, I don't know. If you ask me, it feels like a lot of effort. I literally, luckily, I was like, pull over. And he's like, no. And then we're like just parking at this light. And so I open my door to try and get out. He's like, okay, I'll pull over. And then I'm like, this is not happening. Like, if you think right now, like, first of all, I'm not gonna even waste my time on this date, bitch. I could be doing better things, okay? So if you think that opening the door, if you're gonna even debate that opening the door is just like a little too much Oh, you had me wrong, fish. Like, let me pull out the brass knuckles and the diamond rings. Like, somebody go get choked. Like, I was literally so offended that he was debating this, and I was just like, I am so much effort. I just want you to know, if we're going on a date right now and you think that like you want this to make this situation happen between you and me, I am so much effort. Opening the door is probably like the teeniest thing on my scale of what you need to fit for effort wise. Yeah. Like, I'm talking high standards. So we should just stop. Let's not waste our time. This is too much effort. Let's just stop. I'm going home. And I literally did.
Did he ever call you after that?
Oh yeah, I did. And like, I still know that guy. Like, we're still like friends, but like not really. Like, I'm like, guy, you're
Wait,
like,
that's kind of amazing. I feel like a lot of other people would be like, okay, whatever, he's an asshole, I'm just gonna finish this. The fact that you were like, no, I have standards, and if that's like, you can't even do that, I'm out. Like, honestly,
the fact that you're gonna even argue this right now is like it was baffling me to a point of laughing anger. Like, real rage of like, it was, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of guys will put down a girl, so then you don't think you're too hot for them. So then it kind of like, they'll bring you back up. Guys do that. It's like a real thing the men do.
I thought you're just like, you're insecure, so you want to like make me feel bad, not just like get me in bed. Like, how does that get me in bed?
If I'm insecure, I don't want you, like, and I think you're better than me, we're dating, and I want to fuck you, like, I don't want you to know that I already think that. So I'm going to be like, oh, you know, I mean, you dress a little silly, or like, I mean, I usually prefer brunettes. I usually like brunettes, but you'll do as a joke like that, and then
you blow my mind. Like, I feel like now my entire outlook on dating has really changed, and you know, I don't really feel like I've actually been on a lot of dates with a lot of shitbags of people, and now that you've said this, I'm like, oh wow, I really have been on a lot of date with like some people that aren't good. Like, I never understood. I guess I never thought.
Now if someone was like, oh, I prefer brunettes, I would be like, okay, well now you're gonna love blondes. Like, that would be my response now. But years ago, I would have been like, should I dye my hair brown? Oh shit, okay, maybe you like me more.
Literally, bye-bye. Like, because you just cannot be dealing with people saying comments to you that should not be said. Yeah. And I always am like, I think that's so rude when people do that in general, besides relationships, friends, whatever. And you're like, first of all, picking out anything about anybody, like, bitch, what are you thinking? Like, they're obviously, you're just like, one, if they're not already insecure about it, you're now creating a new insecurity. Like, if we needed any more of those to fucking add to the list. Yeah. One, rude. Two, if I do already have this insecurity, now you're feeding this insecurity that shouldn't even be there because it shouldn't be there. And you're just, like, and that's why I'm also really selective with my like friend group and the people I keep around, because, you know, I have seen a lot of hurt, damaged people damage other people, and that is sad. And then there's some hurt, damaged people that really just want to work on themselves, and you give those people a chance. They say some things, you let them know why those things weren't great or how they made someone feel bad, and then like you'll find people that are like, oh shit, really? I didn't realize when I said that. Fuck, you really think they feel bad about that? And I'm like, yeah, bro, I think that like kind of hit a nerve. And then you have those people that actually decide to change, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Fuck, like, why did I say that? And so those people you can give time of day, but the other people, I don't know, like, they're just damaged.
But I think communication is important, because also people get offended by different things. Like, if you have an insecurity and I have no idea you have it, how would I know?
So just making the joke and saying the thing, you're like,
I think it's more about
picking at anything here.
I think it's more about, if now I know something bothers you and now I still do it, that's when it's like, okay, then we shouldn't be in each other's life.
Right, but there's also kind of some people that, I mean, you know how I feel, because you do have a more of a mean, joking sense of humor. So you know, I've said it before, how I feel. So you know, like, even when it's not, even if you don't say that someone has an insecurity, people just need to be more, you know, watchful, and know that if someone said this to you, you wouldn't feel good, would you? You could literally be, I don't even care, the skinniest bitch in the world, and someone just says one thing about pants being too tight, or your side is coming over your pants, or whatever the comment is, and you're like, oh my God, like, don't do it to people. Don't do it. It's not nice. No one likes it. Not good.
Yeah. Let's say you finally realize this person's not for me. How do you deal then with breaking up with a friend?
Yeah, I haven't always been good at that. I'm like really honest, and that is kind of can be not hurtful, but I'll just straight up be like when I see them or in that moment that I'm like, oh, this is fucked. I'm like, bro, I'm sorry, but like, this is just, I can't do it, man. I don't like it. It makes me feel bad even just having this conversation. It's very like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I gotta go. And
do you
then
give
literally
people a lot of chances first? Or?
Oh yeah, I give too many chances. That's my bad. That's
me too.
Always my bad. Too many chances.
Too. And then, but once I'm done, like,
then you're fucking done.
I like sometimes I'll even block
people, but
I have blocked some. If I know this person's not going to leave me alone, or they're like too much emotional baggage, I will just eventually block.
Yeah.
So, what are you currently working on?
Jewelry line. Really, really excited about that one. I love jewels. I love diamonds. I love all of it. And so I'm very excited about this. I'm not going to reveal the idea behind the brand yet, but I'm really excited about that. And then, movies coming out, filming them all the time, just literally all the time. So is that doing a lot of writing, working on some books, and writing TV and movie getting more into production. Don't forget about Glass House and Forbidden Flowers. Smoking weed is important, people. It is. And the Weldon Project, if you have some time, look it up and sign it, please.
The Weldon Project.
Yes.
Bella and I took a second to become friends because she thought at first that I was really mean. She didn't get my jokes. She didn't get my sense of humor. And she thought I was mean for a minute. You don't think I'm mean anymore.
Until I just accepted.
Until you accepted it. No, until I think it took me a second to soften up. But I'm a pretty nice person.
Yeah. Yeah. I also usually tend to like the bitchier girls. Like, that's kind of my type in general of people and best friends. Like, I do love a girl with like a hard stance on what she likes to say and things. Like, and I guess maybe it's because I don't have that, so I do like it. But yeah, it seemed a little too harsh at first. I was like, oh, she's scaring me. But anywho, we're here.
Cool.
And yeah.
Well, now we're back. Cool. Sick. Love that. Well, I grew on you. Yeah. That's usually the case with everyone. Mm-hmm. So we're good then. Okay.
Beautiful little wart is growing on me.
Yeah. I'm like herpes. You can't get rid of me at this point. So where can people find you?
Smoking weed in random places. I don't know.
On Instagram at Bella Thorne. Right. Well, on movies movies are coming out end of this year and next year. You can find her, and then all the brands. I'll also leave in the description whatever she's working on. You guys can see it there, description of this episode. And yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. Okay, guys, I love you. I hope you have a beautiful day. Make sure to follow Bella if you don't already, and follow all of her projects. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.